questions over there and stuff.
Well, Bradley, why don't you say what we're doing today?
All right, so what we are doing today is I took questions from people on Instagram and just random ass questions is all I wanted, and that is more or less what we got. Of course, because it's a book community, we did get a lot of book related questions from what I saw. I tried not to look at too many of them, so it would be a surprise to me as well, but
Good, I'm glad you didn't cheat.
yeah, like I said, I saw a few, but it's been a few days, so I probably forgot most of them anyway, which is good. And
why don't you introduce our question host?
Our question host is my girlfriend Victoria, which some of you may know from Instagram, and if you don't do the Instagram thing, here she is. With her very tiny voice, just a heads up.
Hiya.
Case in point. All right, so I guess, do you want to kick us off over there with our very first question?
Okay. The first question is from Luke, who I'm sure everyone knows. And he asked, what do you guys think of the Page Crawlers fam?
Well, since
that's like the easiest question.
Well, but since there's 12 of them, I'm not going to individualize everybody. Otherwise, that's going to take up the entire episode. So I'm just going to summarize and say they're all awesome for their various reasons. Very general answer.
Yes. I will also say that it was the first time I felt like I had community within the community. From Bookstagram was like finding our like random group chat that turned into this whole thing, you know, and just having people that I can always go to for book advice or sometimes life advice. And, you know, like we all are so different and yet have certain things that we all really connect on. And I like that.
Yes, definitely. It's a damn good group of people, if I say so myself.
Indeed. We are.
Yes.
Rick B. Reeds asked, what are your top 5 horror movies?
Ooh. Horror movies. If you have like at least a top 2 over there, you can go, because...
Okay, so it's not really, I wouldn't even say they're my favorite, but I'm going to go with the movies that scare me the most.
Okay.
Or like at some point scare me the most. So like my number was Paranormal Activity. That movie just terrifies me just beyond. I have never been so scared in a viewing experience in my life. Then The Ring. The idea of anybody crawling out of the television really freaks me out. Then it kind of, the last 2 are more like favorites the last 3 are more favorites as well as scary, but Poltergeist, this really cheesy video game movie called Stay Alive, and The Lost Boys. I consider Lost Boys horror. Some people don't.
Definitely. Well, this is going to be an ever-changing list for me. It's definitely not definitive, but not in any order. Because I just watched it yesterday, and it's still a damn good horror movie in general, I'll throw Alien on there. I will say Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because that scared the hell out of me when I was a kid and watched it way too young. The original Halloween scared the shit out of me when I was a kid, so that has to go on there.
Nice.
This is one of my favorites, and I really have been wanting to watch it lately, and I'll say Event Horizon.
I know, I was just thinking, I didn't put Event Horizon on the list.
Yeah, like I said, people give it shit, but when you look back on it, you know, whatever you think of story-wise or whatnot, the horror in it is horrifying.
Excellent. Yes.
What will my last one be? You know what? It's a new one, but it's the last movie to really give me goosebumps and scare me. I'll say Hereditary for now.
Yeah. There's a reason I haven't watched that yet.
Like I said, it is a horror movie. You just have to see it. It is intense, to say the least. I'm looking forward to Midsummer. That's the dude who did Hereditary's next movie.
Yeah, that one looks more like something I would find interesting than Hereditary does. So
the reviews I've been reading of it said that it's kind of the same. It's a very slow build and brooding, and then just goes balls to the wall the last like half hour.
Nice.
Yes. What's next?
Baker Street Shelves asked, what's your least favorite book from your favorite author?
Okay, well, Ash is probably going to hate me, but seeing as Stephen King is my favorite author, the only book of his that I've finished, because there's been some I've set aside with plans to come back later, but of the ones I didn't really care for that I have finished, the one that did bore me quite a bit was The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I was just such a good state of mind to read that. And it's like this really intense survival story, which are things that I think I don't like. And then I start reading those stories. I'm like, oh, that's so good. I'm struggling. Because I can't really say that I have a King book where I'm like, I really don't care for that. Where I just was like, just done, like, oh, I can't, like, I read that and I didn't like it. So I'm like trying to think of other authors I really like where I was like, I don't really. Well, I guess an easy one would be, as a pretty avid Harry Potter fan, I hate The Cursed Child. I think it is complete trash. Like I would never actually burn a book, but my brain has burned that book. I think it's terrible. So it actually makes me angry. I think it's part of the reason I really haven't revisited Harry Potter outside of the movies since that came out.
Would you go see the play if you had the choice or no?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But that's because they did really cool practical effects, and so part of that is like the technical artistry, even though I know the story is a dumpster fire.
Yeah, that definitely seemed like a cash grab. Not that she needs it, but it's like, oh, everybody, here's a new Harry Potter story, and by the way, it's just a script.
But that's what's depressing about it, is like the Fantastic Beasts stories are interesting, at least. Like they're interesting and they're new, and it's just a different side of the wizarding world. Like Cursed Child is just terrible. It's just bad choices.
All right, what's up?
Next, we have 5 questions from Jordan.
Of course.
Okay. Longest you've gone without talking?
To each other or in general?
I was going to say, for me, that was it right there.
I think in general.
Yeah, probably just listening to that question was about the longest. You
sleep?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess sleeping would probably be the longest, because even like I went up to a family member's cabin for like 4 days and I like sang and talked the whole time. So I was up there alone. Voices fill the space, or I watch movies and like yell at the television. So I don't go very long without talking. Sleeping, basically.
Now that I think about it, it might have been like one of my very first concerts, but it was the first concert I went to on my own. It was a Tech 9 concert, and was and still am a huge fan. I don't really sing or recite songs with people around me, but at a loud concert, nobody can hear me or, individualize me. So I shouted the entire 3-hour show and wound up giving myself laryngitis for the next 5 days. So I'll say at least 2 days, maybe 3, because speaking with laryngitis really sucks. Yeah,
well, you're usually not supposed to.
Yeah, my point exactly. So at least 2 days, at most 3. So
yeah, probably say 10 hours max.
What is your biggest pet peeve?
People who don't use their turn signals.
Yeah.
Like I am that person who if it comes in a time where it becomes like a safety issue or inconvenient, like I will be angry about it for hours, even when I am no longer driving. Like I have a list in my head of people who have annoyed me most. I have one time where I wrote down someone's license plate.
Oh my God.
Because they cut me off. It was a gray Volvo. Legit. Wow. I know this. It really bothers me. And it's weird because I don't critique other people. Like if I'm in the car with someone else and they're driving, I really don't pay attention to it or critique it, because it's not really impacting me as a driver. It's really only when I am the driver, I'm like, what are you doing? Everyone outside of me is the enemy.
It sounds like we brought up some Vietnam War stories. Um, I think for me, the only thing I can think of at this moment that really does irk me, and I hate being this person, is grammar and spelling. I'm a huge grammar Nazi. I don't know. I don't know, especially in this day and age when you have autocorrect and whatnot. I understand you can't use autocorrect for sentence structuring and whatnot, but it's kind of like, do you speak that way? Is that how you speak in your normal day? Because that's obviously not right.
Yeah, I can understand that one.
Yeah. So that's mine, I guess. That I can think of right now, while trying not to be too mean.
What is your spirit animal?
First, I'm going to be the PC police and say I don't like use of that term, but I get the question that they're asking.
If you have one, go ahead and go, because I have to think about this one.
I kind of do too. Like my instinct is always to say tiger, because I really enjoy the Chinese horoscope, and I'm a tiger. I've always really identified that almost with, although I realize I just joined CoStar and I am deeply, deeply Capricorn. So it makes sense that I would also enjoy the tiger. I think just any cat, like I want attention when I want attention, and otherwise I'm kind of grumpy and intimidating.
Very much a feline.
Yeah.
See, if we're going based off of like the Chinese calendars and whatnot, I'm Year of the Dragon, and I don't think I'm a dragon personally. I'm definitely not fierce like a dragon. I mean, one of my favorite animals, or just animal groups, is like, monkeys and apes and whatnot. So I'll just say a monkey. I've always loved monkeys since I was a kid, so I'll just say I'm a monkey.
Okay.
I've always...
Wait, no, I want to look up dragon and see what it says about you.
Oh, okay. I've always...
It does not sound like you at all.
Oh, God.
The dragon is probably the most magnificent, stunning, and flamboyant sign of the Chinese zodiac. It is easy for you to impress others with your skills and your looks. Although it does say you're a very talented speaker and you feel comfortable on people, and, well, it says you like to be the center of attention. But I do think that, like, you are a talented speaker, and I think you're very skilled, so...
Some, but not all of that. I'm definitely not flamboyant.
Yeah, I would not describe you that way either. Well, let's see. The tiger is... My irresistible magnetism is something special. You're probably one of the most stunning signs of the Chinese zodiac. It's unbelievably easy for you to charm anybody you want. Sometimes it's even a bit scary.
Oh my God.
That sounds really threatening.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And now that I think about
it... All right, so apparently I'm magnetic and manipulative. Yeah, okay.
I was just going to say I agree with the magnetic. And now that I think about it, it does make sense about the monkey thing, because we used to have a tree right outside of our house, and if my mom couldn't find me in the house, she would always know to walk outside and look up in that tree, and there I am, sitting at the canopy of it.
Nice.
Yes. What are we on? Question number 4 from Jordan.
What is your grossest habit?
Grossest habit.
I will give up showering if it means that if I need sleep. Like currently we had a rough week with the baby, so I did not get to take any showers this week because I have to shower at night. So I haven't showered since Sunday.
I guess on that note, I'll say kind of the same thing. Like if I'm already very sleepy and in a comfortable position to go to sleep, I'm like, you know what? Brushing my teeth can wait till the morning.
Yeah. I brush my teeth, but that's because I had a lot of dental work done. So I'm like, oh, I paid for this. I better take care of them. But there are times where I'm like, she's asleep. She could wake up at any time. Like, it's like waiting for, a bomb without a timer to go off. So I'm like, do I shower right now and give up, like, potentially an hour and a half of sleep to, like, shower and take care of my hair and all that nonsense? Or do I just go to sleep? I'm like, some weeks I just pick sleep.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I will definitely sacrifice a lot of things for the smallest amount of sleep, even though I don't have a child yet.
Right? I know. Well, that's the thing is I think I don't know that I was that person before this, but you know what? I don't mind it. Sleep is great. Okay, but then the question is, do you still brush your teeth like first thing in the morning? Then like, oh, I didn't do it last night. I have to do it in the morning.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
If
See,
if I
make up
wake
for
up,
it.
yeah, if I wake up and I'm about to leave for work, then definitely. Otherwise, if I wake up and I'm about to have coffee, then I'll just have my coffee and then do it.
And then brush your teeth. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, then the real question is, do you floss
In the morning,
in general?
in general, yeah. But if I do it at night, then there's really no point in doing it in the morning. To me, anyway.
True. I would agree. Yeah.
Like,
I can get behind that.
especially the sleeping thing. The past few days, my work schedule has been very different for me, and Victoria and I just got done eating dinner. We retired to our room. She's hanging out in the chair watching TV. I'm laying on the bed, scrolling through my phone, and then next thing I know, she's standing over me telling me to take my glasses off and put my phone away because apparently I fell asleep and didn't even realize it. So that's exactly what I did. I stood up, plugged my phone in, set my alarm, took my glasses off, went right back to sleep.
That's how you got to do it.
And that was, I think, the longest it's ever taken me to wake you up.
Yeah, I'm usually a very light sleeper. She said that she was standing there for quite a while trying to wake me up.
Sign that it was needed.
Yes.
Okay, last Jordan question. One thing you wish you could unsee.
Trump being elected president?
A really solid answer. Um,
But then I would have to unsee the past, 2 years now?
it's something I saw in a movie, but I honestly don't want to say what it is because I don't want anybody else to watch this movie. Like,
Oh.
I think it's super exploitative and terrible, and I think they took something really serious and made it like 9/10 of this movie takes it really seriously and thinks this is really concerning, and then the last tenth is just like pornographic exploitation of a really serious problem. But I wish I had never watched this movie. I'm not even gonna say the name of the movie. I'll say the gist of it. So it starts with it's sort of like found footagey of these two teenage girls, and one of them is talking to someone on the internet and gets kidnapped. And then you follow her friend kind of going through the footage of her friend and then trying to figure out who it was that kidnapped this girl. And then at the end it shows like some anonymous person posted photos of the friend who got kidnapped online, and then that same person kidnaps the friend. But like when it shows the photos it shows you the photos that were posted online, and like they're just not, it's supposed to be showing like a 15-year-old girl. Just so they took this really seriously about like internet safety, and then like just went that like exploded over the line. And I was like, this was not what I thought I was getting into. This is awful. And it's just like disgusting. Like I said something to once like ages ago on Facebook when I watched it. I was like, do not watch this movie. And of course somebody turned around and watched it, and she was like, oh my God, you were totally right about this. I was like, that's why I said don't watch the movie. So I wish that I could unsee that movie, and that like it was just, I just hate having that image in my brain.
See, that sounds like if you were saying the first 9/10 of the movie wasn't that bad, it sounds like they either didn't think they were getting their point across and were like, oh, we got to throw this in at the end to get our point across, when it sounds like they didn't need to do that.
From what I read about the movie, they were intentionally bait and switching people.
Oh, well, okay.
Like that shock factor was on purpose.
Well, that's not cool.
No.
It was just based on a real like subject, but not a real story per se.
No, it wasn't even that. It was like everything about it was fiction, but they were kind of tackling the idea of like, do you know what your kid's doing on the internet? Like, do you know that people are doing things younger than you think they are? And then suddenly it was like, oh, but we're just going to show you this stuff. And then this horrible, horrific ending, and ta-da!
Jesus Christ. Well then.
Yeah, it was really awful.
There's definitely some movies that have burned some images in my brain that I wish I could unsee. I will say the name of this movie because I watched the first one, and for what it was okay. Wasn't anything special. It was more of that was a case of shock factor, but it was the second part of the Human Centipede.
No,
like
never watching those.
Like I said,
those are images I don't need.
Yeah, like I said,
I know myself enough to know that.
The first one wasn't like, yeah, it was kind of shocking, but it wasn't terrible. And the second one, they just had to turn it up to 11, and just, yeah, that's definitely okay. Maybe I'll change my answer and say that's. I wish I could unsee that movie and get the 90 minutes of my life back.
Fair enough.
Up
All right, what do we got
next.
next?
Read with Amy asked, what book jump-started your love for reading?
I don't know that I can answer that question because I've been reading for so long. Um, like I don't remember not reading, not having a million books all the time. Um, I think what kind of stuff how I read now was I found a random book in a thrift shop. It's called Fifth Business by Robertson Davies, which like nobody has read this. He's a Canadian author, like old school Canadian author, and like no one's read these books. But I got really, really into it, and that's why I started buying books on Amazon. And then suddenly I'm reading like Amazon reviews and finding all these other things. And so I think that's how I started reading, outside of some like YA stuff or like things that like everybody read. Because basically I read like Harry Potter and classics, and then I hit college, and suddenly I was like, oh, this Fifth Business book looks interesting, and suddenly I was reading all kinds of stuff.
I think I talked about this in one of our previous episodes. I will say when my grandma bought me I Am Legend got me wanting to read more, although I didn't up until I got that Loot Crate box and got Ready Player One, and from then on it was that I guess I will say Ready Player One, because after that is when I really got back into reading, and it's been keeping up ever since. So that was in 2014, 2015, something like that, when that book came out. So yes, I will say Ready Player One.
Nice.
Evie Bookish asked, is there a Stephen King book you really couldn't get into?
How in danger are we going to be if we answer that question?
I know, right? Well, okay, I will say that I probably did stop at the wrong time of Christine, because I got 3/4 of the way through and just, to me, nothing had happened yet. So I stopped with the intention of going back, and I still haven't. Man, that is really hard because most of them I've finished at some point. I remember starting 11/22/63 and getting about halfway through and stopping, but then I came back and wish I hadn't stopped. So
So far I have two that I've stopped. One really I was just like not in the mood for, and that was The Eyes of the Dragon. It's just not what I was interested in at the time. But the one where I'm like I struggled to get into it, which I need to finish before the next season of Castle Rock, is Misery. And I know people really love that book, but I don't know, it just makes me feel really claustrophobic. Like I just didn't. It felt like suffering to read it, and like even though I can read stuff where I'm like, oh, this is uncomfortable or terrible, or I'm feeling secondhand embarrassment or whatever, like this was just like I felt like couldn't breathe while I was reading it.
I really do like that book. I will say though, the literal chapters of the Misery books that Paul Sheldon writes are they're so boring. You would think that Stephen King, he would kind of inject something into it, and no, it's just a very...
No, but I think that's the point though. Like at least as far as I got into Misery is like Paul is so bored writing about misery that like of course the chapter shouldn't be interesting. Like he's bored.
Yeah.
It's bored. They should be boring, but I don't know. There's something about where I was just like, I got like probably a decent way into it, and I'm just not feeling it. So I'll circle back to it someday. Once there's a release date for Castle Rock, that season 2, that will probably make me read it. But I would have to say, like, the book I haven't enjoyed is Misery.
Yeah, because this next season's going to be all Annie centered, right? Like a prequel to Misery.
Yeah, Annie and her daughter. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say your first read through, yes, you probably should read those Misery chapters, but if you're like me and do love the book and reread it, I'm definitely going to skip over the Misery Chastain chapters because they're just god awful.
Yeah.
Brittany Reads Books asked, if you could only listen to one album for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Do you have one? Because I think I have one.
But it's hard. Like, two things sort of come to mind. One is an album, and one is like, well, I would just do like this, the collection of greatest hits, because that could go on forever.
Yeah.
Um, from a collection standpoint, like greatest hits, Queen, obviously.
There you go.
Because there's just so much variety and stories and weirdness that I could get into that. Like, you just imagine Queen now, like, they would be the people who would, like, you know, similar to Beyonce, and, like, drop the concept album where there's, like, a movie and the music and something else, you know, like, that
Oh,
would
God,
just
yeah.
totally be, that would totally be that vibe.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Otherwise, going with sort of the first thing that flared into my head was Arctic Monkeys AM.
I'm not, I mean, I know who they are, but I haven't listened to enough to form an opinion of them yet.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because, like, I like their other stuff, but I love that album. Like, the difference between like and love. I like generally Arctic Monkeys, but I love that album specifically.
That's cool when that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for me, I think I'll just say my just favorite album of all time, which is he's a rapper who goes by the name of Lupe Fiasco. His second album, The Cool. I will say that for personal reasons, just because, well, right in the middle or right in the beginning of him making that album, he had a bunch of bad stuff happen to him. His best friend went to jail for 44 years for gun charges. That's kind of on that guy. Nobody can really feel bad for him. That's on him. But nonetheless, your best friend going away for 44 years is probably got to take a toll on you.
Yeah.
And his dad passed away at the same time. So the album, I mean, he's not like a darker rapper, but the kind of tone of the album took a darker turn. And at that same time when that album came out, I moved from California to Washington when I didn't want to. So I already wasn't in a good state of mind. And then about 2 or 3 weeks after that album came out, back at home, this is going to be very terrible, but a friend of mine who was also engaged to my brother-in-law was horribly murdered. And that put me in a dark spot, and just, even though that album kind of has a bad story tied to it, it still kind of helps me in dark times, because it wound up doing for Lupe Fiasco wound up doing really well. And, you know, he said he still has fond memories of it, and it brought him out of the dark place, and just kind of does the same for me.
Yeah, I mean, music is really therapeutic, and context matters too. Like, the strongest thing sense tied to memory is smell, but I think sound really gets in there too, because there are so many things where you listen to a song and immediately you're like, oh, I'm in a whole other place, or, you know, you can process through emotions, and I think that's really important. So, like, yeah, that is a really sad story, but at the same time, like, the point of you telling it is that you got through it.
Yeah, and it's still, I mean, I can still play it from an enjoyment, an enjoyment perspective, and also if I'm feeling down in a dark place, I can listen to it and it'll help out in that way too, because it's such a really good album. If you like, if you like hip hop in general, but you like very, very smart lyricism, he is probably one of the best, like, at writing lyrics.
Good to know.
Yes. What's up next?
The next one is kind of a multi-part, and it's cut off here.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well,
it's from Ivy Lost Inside Pages, and she asks, how long have you been a constant reader?
Okay. Well, you said it's multi-part, so I guess we'll go with that one first.
Yeah.
So how long have we been a constant reader? Probably around the same time I read Ready Player One, because I think the next book I went to after that was The Shining, and then that was a pretty good kickstart, is The Shining. So around the same time for me as Ready Player One, so whatever that was, 2014, 2015-ish.
For me, I'd say about 2008. I borrowed Everything's Eventual from a relative, and I got really into it. And the thing is, I had tried to read Stephen King books before and didn't really, I don't know, I just couldn't connect at that point in time. But I started reading his short story collection, so I probably read more of those by the time I started reading Stephen King novels. But I would say probably the summer of 2012. Yeah, 2012 was the first time I read a Stephen King novel. And I read From a Buick 8 and then Salem's Lot. And I was like, okay, I'm officially a Stephen King person now, not just his short stories. So that's probably what I would say is more like 2012.
Definitely Salem's Lot, that's for sure. Salem's Lot is so good.
Yeah.
Still haven't read From a Buick 8. It's been on my list, but I've heard very mixed things.
Yeah, look, having read his other stuff now, I get why people don't like it, but I actually really enjoyed it. Like, I liked the mystery. Well, okay, here's the other thing, though. I am deeply in love with Maximum Overdrive. I know Papa Steve doesn't like it. I know he's not proud of it, but I love it.
It's
So
fun.
anytime he writes stories about weird stuff with cars, like I'm 100% there. And I loved Maximum Overdrive before I knew it had anything to do with Stephen King. I saw that was probably a movie I saw when I was way too young. I was probably like 7 or 8. It was on like late night TV. I just loved it. Like deeply, deeply love it. To this day, I probably watch it at least twice a year.
Oh man, it's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah, I love that movie. It was the first thing I ever bought on Amazon Prime.
Oh, wow.
Like when they started doing video streaming, I was like, Maximum Overdrive purchased. Um, so anytime he does kind of weird stuff with cars, I'm into it. Which is surprising I haven't read Christine yet, but I almost feel like I'm saving it to like really savor the experience.
Yeah. What was the other part of this question?
Favorite authors?
Favorite authors? Well, I guess just the real quick gamut. Obviously Stephen King for me. Joe Hill, Neil Gaiman, Dennis Lehane, and I'm just gonna do a top 5 in no order except Stephen King's number 1. I guess to round it out, I'll say Cormac McCarthy.
Okay, so I'm trying to think of more like my auto buy people, and I read a very weird mix. So, like Stephen King, obviously, Paul Tremblay, like any book he does, I'm gonna buy it. Kirsten White, she's a YA author, but she's like she does a lot of retellings and reimaginings of stories and just in the most badass ways. I'm 100% on board with anything she does. Victoria Schwab also goes by VE. So it's like your darker shade of magic and her books. Again, sort of like really just badassery that I'm really into. And then who else is kind of up there? I'm trying to think like auto buy people where I'm like, yes, I will always buy their book. I'm probably gonna say Kendare Blake, which is another YA author, but she wrote a horror duology that is probably one of my favorite I've ever read. It's Anna Dressed in Blood, super good, just haunted house, and then beyond mythology that I still just adore to this day. And she's done other series that are always just like really brutal for being kind of aimed towards the young adult audience. I'd almost call her new adult than young adult, and they're just fun to read.
I already like the title of it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I know I have actually paperback copies. I was going to do a giveaway, and I just keep forgetting to do it.
Oh, shit.
I'll do it eventually.
Yeah.
Favorite movies?
Oh, God. I mean, I do have a favorite movie, but I guess I'll try my best to do a top 5. Although, like any top lists, it's going to be
okay.
changing.
What's your favorite movie? Like, what's your favorite movie?
Oh, favorite movie, hands down. I always say is Pulp Fiction.
Okay. What else is on there?
Let's see. I'm just gonna think of a few that first one look on my mind. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is on there. As Good as It Gets with Jack Nicholson is on there. That's 2 Jack Nicholson movies. I know Crash used to be on there, but I think it's just because I watched it a lot when it first came out. Now it might be kicked off my top 5, but it is still a good movie, even though it gets a lot of shit. Damn, I think that's all I can think of for right now because there's way too many.
I know I'm really struggling. I'm trying to think of what are the things that I watch all the time.
Yeah.
Obviously like the Lord of the Rings, the original trilogy. Just phenomenal movies. I have watched them, the extended editions, many, 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 many times. Like when I'm like, I don't know what to watch, put it on Lord of the Rings. It's definitely one of those things. The Lost Boys. As I said before, I love that movie. I'm super obsessed with it. Um, Gosh, what else is on there? I don't know. I like lots of weird stuff. Oh, Moana. I have to say, like, I'm obsessed with Moana. Cause like there's something about the movie that's like really empowering and emotional. Like it doesn't matter how I'm feeling, that movie has the right song. So I'm definitely into that.
Sounds about right.
The Goonies, and Hot Fuzz.
Yes.
How did I not say Hot Fuzz right away? Hot Fuzz is
Oh
like
man.
I. There are times where I don't feel this way, but Hot Fuzz is probably one of my all time favorite
Movies or comedies?
movie.
Movie.
Like movie.
Okay.
Hot Fuzz is just up there for me, and I couldn't even really tell you what it is about it. But when I was in when I was going through really bad insomnia, Hot Fuzz was one of the movies that could like really just chill me out, calm me down, and I just like enjoy myself, feel good about the world, and could go to sleep.
Yeah.
So
Even
yeah,
though it's
I really love Hot Fuzz.
even though it's kind of dark, it still has such a fun atmosphere around it.
Yeah, and just the casting is so good.
Oh yeah.
Like the whole cast. I mean, even beyond Peg and Frost, like the rest of the cast is fantastic. I think also the more I view it, the more I love the Andes.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
I think I forgot about this one. I think Jurassic Park has to be on there.
Oh yeah, yeah. My mom was like really adamantly against me watching Jurassic Park when I was little and it came out, and so I watched it a lot, and so I tell her I just have to make up for all the viewings I didn't get to have as a child. I still hold it against her. It's been like 20 some years.
I saw that way too young, and it's scarred me on dinosaurs, or scarred me on.
What?
Yeah, just if I walk into a exhibit and it's got a life-size fake T-Rex in there, I don't think I'll enter the room.
No, see, that wasn't the kind of stuff that scared me. I think she made the wrong choice not letting me see it when I was little, but I'm also I was and still am a repeat viewing person. Like I'll get in a mood for a movie and I'll watch it like 2 or 3 times.
In a row?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Or like, across like a week or something. I'll be like, I'm gonna watch this. I'm gonna watch this again. Or just, I won't know what to watch. I need to put something on background noise. I'm like, Jurassic Park. So that one's up there too.
Yeah, definitely. There's way too many.
I know. Movies are good.
Especially being a movie person and people. Like, yeah.
And I'll admit, I'm not hard to entertain. Like, it's not hard for me to be like, that was entertaining. Like, well, did it touch me emotionally? Is it going to stick with me forever? No, but I'm a person who like, I'm going to sit down in front of a screen and be told a story and I'm going to enjoy myself.
Yeah, there's definitely fast food movies that you have fun while you watch them, but afterwards,
Yeah, for sure.
She also asked your favorite music.
Oh God. Well, okay. Well, I'll just say my favorite genre of music is primarily hip hop music, but I do listen to everything. Everything except I don't listen to country whatsoever. That's another hard one.
I am either like deep into alternative rock or I listen to like straight up pop music. I really enjoy pop. Like I think, and actually, the person who really converted me on this, because it happened later in my life, was Harry Styles. Because I actually really liked his album when it came out, and he did an interview where he talked about, why do we knock down the things that teenage girls like? Because I mean, teenage girls were the first people to like the Beatles, and it made me really rethink pop as a genre and things. If you don't just listen to like the top 40 stuff, like what other people are doing that's branded and genre assigned as pop music is interesting, like lyrically and electronically. And anybody who tells me that Harry Styles wrote a bad first album is just dumb. Like it's a good album. It's well done. It's got a lot of variety of sound. He pulled in very different music. It's lyrically good. Like I stand by it. And then of course I started listening to One Direction. I don't know how that happened to me.
I mean,
I'm also really obsessed with this British boy band called the Vamps. Like I love them. They're the desktop on my computer right now.
but
And
see,
it's just I got real deep into pop music and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna own this. But other than that, it's like I either listen to super pop music or like angsty rock.
mm, but see, the thing with like One Direction and Harry Styles is I'm not trying to say this in a bad way, but like One Direction is more or less a product that was somebody put them together, wrote the songs for them, told them what to say, how to sing it, and whatnot. Whereas Harry
In the
Styles
early stuff, I would say that is true.
yeah, and like Harry Styles doing it himself is how he wants it, how he wants it to sound, what he wants to say, and so I feel like as a solo artist, he had a lot more creative freedom, hopefully, anyway.
Yeah. Well, I also get up to Niall Horan. I like both their albums a lot. I saw both of them live on their tours for their albums and got no regrets.
Yeah.
I almost went to see Niall twice. And he was an excellent live performer because his music is very raw, whereas Harry's is still very stylized and, you know, complicated. Like Niall really stripped down, it was like all piano and guitar, and it was really nice.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Other than like my main people I listen to hip hop wise, I think outside of hip hop, my probably most listened to artist would be Linkin Park, which
Classic.
they get a lot of shit for how their sound is so different after their first two albums, which I'm a huge Linkin Park fan and I do love those first two albums, but honestly,
I love all their albums.
I
don't
love all their
care.
albums
Artists
too.
are meant to evolve.
Thank you, exactly. That was what I was going to say. And honestly, I think those first two, maybe not my least favorite albums by them, but is not in my top two. Actually, I think my favorite album by them is A Thousand Suns. To me, that is like they did a perfect blend of how they wanted their rock to sound, how they wanted their hip hop aspect to sound, and just yeah. So they get way too much shit, and I really miss Chester.
Don't y'all?
Yes.
Don't y'all? That was probably the first concert I went to as like a teenager. I got tickets to Linkin Park for my birthday. I think when I turned 15, and I went with a friend in high school, and it was really awesome. It was a really good show.
I can't remember when he passed away. I think it was either in June or July. But a couple months before that, they announced that Linkin Park was coming to a city near me, like a 20-minute drive, and I was definitely going to go. I was ready to buy the tickets, and then, yeah, tragically Chester passed, and I've never got to see them, so.
I'm sorry.
Me too.
No, actually, I at one point in my life decided I was going to try my hand at starting a YouTube channel, and like the second video I was going to make was when he passed, and I just did a video about that and about that show, and because I remember he like stopped in the middle of a song and was like, dude, a girl crowd surfing is not a reason to grow up her, cut it out, and like gave a whole little speech about like respecting each other and all that, and I was like, dude, these people will have like that earned my love forever.
Yeah.
For the whole band. You know, the point of like stopping and being like, be nice to each other, geez. You know, or like be respectful of one another's bodies. Like, especially then, because that was like, God, 2002. Like, that was not a conversation we were having on the mainstream, let alone in a community like that, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he was such a good person.
Yes, definitely.
So
we gotta stop talking about this or I'm gonna cry.
I know. I was gonna continue on with another story, but I was like, you know what, we need to move on.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like ew, I said like.
I'm sure we say a lot, so it's okay to say like.
I'm sure I've said that too. Naomi asked about 7 or 8 questions.
Naomi, as in.
You're gonna make me say it.
Yes.
Naomi, aka Book Nerd with Lipstick.
Oh, we love her.
So her first question is, what's your biggest Bookstagram struggles?
Mine, other than taking pictures would be, I feel like I always have to, my caption has to pertain to that book specifically, when really it can just be not filler, not the picture be filler, but the picture can just be anything I want it to be, and I can talk about whatever I want to talk about, but I still feel like I have to have the picture has to have some sort of significance to the caption when it doesn't, and I need to just do what the hell I want.
Yeah, I understand that one. I get that. I think my struggle right now is that having moved, I don't have a good setup to take pictures right now. So everything's been kind of random. Like my posting is not very good at the moment because I don't haven't found the good spots in my yard yet. I don't have a good setup in the house. And so I'm just kind of struggling to find the angles and the light in a new space. That's really frustrating me right now.
Yeah.
Next, she asked, where would you go if you had to travel to one last place?
Oh, God, a last place? I mean, the top of my bucket list for traveling is going to be Australia, so I would just say Australia because that's the number one place I want to travel to, and if someone told me you get to travel to one more place and that's it, then I will say Australia.
Okay, I'm torn. Because there's lots of places I want to travel, and I also have to assume that if I'm going to go one last place, I'm dragging my husband along with me. So, what's a place that we would enjoy the most together? I'd probably say Iceland, but if it was just me, I'd say Prague.
Ooh,
I don't know why I was just really obsessed with Prague, and I've always wanted to go there. So,
that's a good one.
Yeah.
Which era would you go to if you traveled in time?
I mean, I've always said I would like to go to like the 30s or something like that, but then not that it's entirely better in present day, but you had the prohibition on, and you had god-awful racism. Not that we don't have that now, but they also had the whole segregation thing, which is not cool, obviously. But now, as lame as everyone says it was, because I was born in the 80s, I'll just say the 80s.
I don't think I would. I mean, the more I come to know about the world in the past, I'm like, I would not want to go back to any time, especially if I'm traveling in my own body. I'm anywhere I go, I'm just subjugated and in danger.
Yeah.
Prior to 1970 something,
Yeah.
the disadvantage is just so significant. I mean, we've only recently outlawed, or treated domestic violence seriously since the 90s. So, anywhere I go, I'm in danger. I think if I could go back in my own timeline though, within my own life, I'd probably go back to the early 2000s, and if I was armed with the knowledge I have now, it'd be so fascinating to see how the world plays out.
Definitely.
I would, not that I want to relive 9/11 because I wouldn't, but just the post 9/11 world and how much things have changed, armed with the knowledge I have now, would be very interesting.
Yeah, everyone says they would like to redo high school and middle school, and I'm definitely one of those because I didn't do anything in high school or middle school. So I would definitely like to go back and do it to my full potential.
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand that one.
Yeah.
What's your favorite TV show?
I always have to separate these into not necessarily comedy and drama, but I always separate into a sitcom and a different type of show. As I would say, my favorite sitcom is probably Frasier, and just regular TV show is Breaking Bad.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh, overall?
Overall.
All right.
I watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine the way my husband watches The Office. I'm never really not watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine. At some point it comes on. Or I just, pick an episode. I'm like, oh, I like this one. And I just watch it. It makes me laugh, but it tackles good storylines. It balances both serious and hilarious.
Yeah. I started watching it when it first started airing, and then just kind of fell off for some reason. And then started it over, and kind of the same thing. I just haven't stuck with it. Not that I don't like it. I have so much stuff to watch.
Yeah, well, and I will say I was not a big Andy Samberg person. And then we just kind of decided, like, hey, this show looks funny. And we started watching it when it was on television, which is crazy to think about because everything is through streaming now. And
Yeah.
we actually made a point of watching it every week. I think through the first 2 seasons, and then life got kind of crazy. We missed it and then caught up. And I was like, I love this show so much.
Yeah,
So when it got, like, I was one of those people who, when it got canceled, I was furious, like tweeting and posting and like, rah, and then it got picked back up and I was like, we're saved. So
picked back up like 12 hours later.
oh yeah. Yeah. And of course NBC did it. I mean, that's the home of Mike Schur. They had to.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the other thing though, is I will pretty much give anything Mike Schur creates a try. I mean, The Office, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Good Place, like he's Parks and Rec, like he's got a kind of humor that I really can relate to and not feel always secondhand embarrassment. I'll probably never forgive him if he had anything to do with Scott's Tots, but
Jesus, I didn't realize he's done so many
all
of those
those
iconic
things.
shows. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, genius.
How about your favorite TV show as a kid?
Well, I'll say the first thing that came to my mind, which is probably The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah, that's a good one. I enjoyed Fresh Prince and Family Matters for
Mm-hmm.
sure. Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Oh, yeah.
I would like race home from school every day. I get those little Debbie Nutter Butters. Like I had my Nutter Butter and a glass of milk, and I'd watch Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yes. I was definitely a Nickelodeon kid, and yeah, I watched Are You Afraid of the Dark and Doug, Rocko's Modern Life, all that stuff. Definitely,
Yep.
definitely a Nicktoon person, that's for sure.
An underrated musical artist.
Oh, there's so many again. I'll go with somebody that I started listening to recently. I feel like he's fairly well known, but strangely doesn't have a whole lot of content out, which is, I guess, says a lot about him. The fact that he is fairly well known, but doesn't have very many songs out there. His name is Rex Orange County. I really like him a lot. Has a very unique sound and is a damn good singer.
Okay, I'm gonna struggle with this one because there was an artist that I would always say that about, and then recently he's like exploded in the UK. And so it would have been Lewis Capaldi. He's a singer. He's the bestest way to describe Lewis Capaldi's music is after you listen to any of his songs, you just want to ask like, dude, who hurt you? Like it just makes you sad. But I think because that's like, a lot of artists that I like are big in the UK and not in the US. So I'd say most underrated in the US is a band called Circa Waves. I just adore them. Like they just got me through some spaces,
Yeah.
So I just appreciate them a ton.
I've heard of them, but never listened to them.
I'm trying to think like any other artists that I super like, but yeah. I think I'll stick with that, but Circa Waves, I love them a lot. Oh, also Oh Wonder. They are just like, I don't know, they're cute. That's what I'm gonna go with. They're cute.
Sometimes it's all you need.
Yeah.
Do you think
Like anybody else on
supposed to
there?
say
Nope.
bookish?
All right.
This. I'm not sure what she meant to put for this question. I don't know if it's supposed to be an unpopular book opinion or an unpopular bookish opinion. I guess it's kind of the same.
Oh. I don't really have any right now. Like when I think about it, I'm like, I don't think there's anything too controversial that I feel about any book right now.
I will say that not all the time, I guess stereotypical. Sometimes I do judge a book by its cover. Like if I'm browsing at Barnes & Noble and I'll see a spine of a book, I'm like, oh man, that title sounds really good. And I'll pull it out and look and I'm like, oh, okay, but that cover's terrible and put it back. Because sometimes it seems like it might be a little too representative of the book, and it's like, man, if the cover is this bad, I can only imagine what the inside is like, and yeah, I probably shouldn't do that, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I really have any controversial opinions right now that I can think of off the top of my head where I'm like, oh, I wouldn't say this. Like, yeah, I mean, I think my most controversial one right now I've already said, which is like, wasn't a big fan of Misery. I've temporarily DNF'd it.
This may not be unpopular, but James Patterson's terrible. It seems 50-50. He's the highest selling author of all time for a reason. It has to be, anyway.
Overrated.
Yeah.
But here's what I think is really interesting. I was just talking to, I want to say Dark Nutmeg is her username, about this, is that he started this like Jimmy Patterson imprint where it's like he's sort of the publisher.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really interesting that all of the things he's picked up are like women. Like he's promoting women authors telling these stories. I'm like, that's so interesting to me. That is not a direction I thought he would go in. But we're talking like not just female authors, but all of the main characters are women.
Well, that's cool at least. Hopefully the content is good at least. Has been
Yeah,
well received
like
anyway.
the first one that came out was Carrie Maniscalco's Stalking Jack the Ripper. I love that series. The last one's coming out in the fall, and I'm really excited about it. So yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was really interesting.
It's good that he has a knack.
He like way overbrands the books. That's what we were talking about recently. It was like it's just Jimmy Books and Jimmy Patterson like everywhere.
Oh God.
but at least he is actually picking good books.
Well, maybe he can learn a thing or two from his proteges.
He doesn't even write his books anymore.
No, probably. I have been wanting to at least give the first Alex Cross novel a try.
Crossbook, yeah.
If I ever do, I don't know. It may be because I have read everything I own, which will probably never happen. So.
I think Naomi had one more question, but you didn't send that one to me. Remember?
Oh, that's right. Naomi asked what we love about read-alongs, or like why we love doing read-alongs. You know what? For me, anyways, most of the time, it's not even for the book itself. It's just, it's just again with the community, you get placed into a small group of people, and kind of like what happened with you and I. They just sometimes those people stick with you, and yeah, you make those connections and that you wouldn't have made otherwise through just a big community reading it and talking to it. But when you narrow it down, you really make those connections, and yeah, the people, it's fun.
Yeah, I would definitely say that's part of it too. And it keeps me motivated. And it'd be really easy sometimes to just throw off a book and be like, nope, you're going to do this. I think that's why I'm finally getting through The Dark Tower. It's because even though I'm not like in a chat or anything, like, I don't know. I'm a person who's motivated by like, I don't want to let somebody else down.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, oh, nope, I got to keep it going because I said I would do this and I got to follow through. So that's a big part of it. But yeah, I just think it's fun to talk to people. Like, I did a read along for Dune, led by Red Star Reviews, and then we all watched the movie together too, the David Lynch one.
Oh,
and
man.
that was probably one of the funniest chats I've ever been part of, because we were just like, it's not that we weren't enjoying ourselves. It's not that the movie isn't pretty cool, but like we were just like tearing stuff down and be like, what are you doing? Like we were just ripping on the characters' choices, like the movie. It was great. That was so much fun of like the chat connected so well. The chat was like, okay, at this time across all these time zones, we're going to watch the movie.
Oh, wow.
And we
That's
did, and it
pretty
was
cool.
hilarious.
Yeah, that's
It was a
pretty
really
cool.
good time. So yeah, like you just connect people differently. I think my It chat group was pretty good too. I got to know a lot of different people out of that one.
Yeah.
Levi asked your top 2 favorite books.
Okay, well, I'll say It. I mean, my all-time favorite book is Nosferatu, so I guess I'll say It and Nosferatu. Yeah.
It and A Wrinkle in Time.
I don't think I've read A Wrinkle in Time since I was in elementary school, and I remember not liking it, but also I wasn't a reader at that time, so I probably need to revisit it. It was one
I
of those
mean, it
ones they
definitely is
made you
a
read it,
kid
so
book for sure. Um, and I also know that it's not for everybody, but there's just messages about it that I like. I really like A Wrinkle in Time.
okay.
Excuse me.
Tracy asked, "What is a book you hated at first, but now you love, love, love?"
Ooh, that's a good question.
I'm trying to think of a book that oh man, that's hard because I don't think I give
Books that give chances.
that I have finished and I'm like, you know what, didn't care for this, and that's kind of it. I don't know if there's not enough time to go back and reread a bad book to me. Yeah, I honestly don't think I have one because I don't think I go back to books I hate.
I'm not going to say love, 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 but The Drawing of the Three.
Oh man,
I was like, oh, this book is such a slog. Like, I did not enjoy it. But then the more like I talk about it and I think about it, I'm like, okay, I appreciate this.
mm-hmm.
And I think if I would go back and read it again, I think I would enjoy it a lot more, having just more context for the characters.
Yeah, see, that was me. The first time I read it, I mean, it was really different from the first book. Anyone who's read at least the first two Dark Tower books will know it's vastly different. But even though I did appreciate how different it was, yeah, there did come a point where I was kind of like, yeah, this needs to get moving. But then I read it a second time and was just like, holy shit, this book is just nonstop tension, and it just keeps ramping up until the very end.
Yeah, and I was just afraid the tension was not going to go anywhere because I knew it was part of a series. And so I think that's where my frustration came from as well. But now I look back and I see all these pieces and all these things that you need to experience in that book in order to understand them later,
Yeah. And, other than the third one ending with a cliffhanger, more or less, you can't look at them all as standalone stories. Like, you can't just pick one and read it, but they all have self-contained stories that end, but, are surrounded by a much bigger story.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa over at United Cakedom asked, "Your opinions on romance novels, are they too cliche?"
Well, I don't think I've ever read a straight up.
Oh yes, Bradley, please answer this
I was
question.
gonna say I don't think I've ever read a straight up romance novel. I've read novels with romance in them, but I mean, I'm not gonna say that they're all probably cheesy and terrible. I'm sure there are some really good ones. I can't just say they're all bad, but me personally, not that I don't like romance. That's not going to be the first choice I go to when I want to read a book is a full-on romance novel. So,
I mean, I think some romance novels are cliche, but I think also the people who are really successful and just keep writing them and turning them out, like they find something different and if you create a good character, you can have your story be cliche and that's okay. Because I think we go in, part of the reason genre exists is because we go in with expectations. So a romance novel, we expect certain things to happen. I don't see why there's anything wrong with that. So I would say, yeah, there's some romance novels that are like, oh, this is cliche and terrible, or it's just bad writing. But I don't think there's anything, I like romance novels. I've read plenty. They're fun. It's fun sometimes, and the thing that surprised me the most was there's a author who writes YA contemporary romance. That is not two genres together that I ever thought I would enjoy reading, and I love them. They're energetic and fun and cute, and like especially as a girl, like romance is fun. It makes me feel good. So I think romance novels are great.
and I'm sure a lot of the authors who that's all they write, and each one sells a bajillion copies. I'm sure that they probably know they have an audience and they just stick to it because maybe not entirely because it makes them money, but also might just be easy to them, and that's just what they do. That's their job, is to write these books for this audience.
Yeah, for sure.
That seems like more of a suggestion than a question.
That sounds about right. I guess this is more of a
Suggestion for a new episode.
Hmm?
No? Read it.
Maybe so. Okay, I thought this was like a direct question, but
Rod suggested.
yeah, Rod suggested an episode on discovering new authors. I assumed he was asking. Oh, new horror. I thought he said new horror authors.
An episode about the new voices of horror would be cool.
Oh.
I love discovering new authors.
We'll take that under consideration.
Yeah, definitely. But I feel like the up and coming people that, at least that I read, are maybe, if not well established, are already prolific, like Keelan Patrick Burke. Like, he may not be on the New York Times bestseller list, but, damn if he doesn't have an audience and a big body of work.
Yeah, I think that's something we'd have to do our homework on. We are going to talk about.
Yeah. That does sound like fun, though, because there's definitely quite a few out there, that's for sure, that we already read. So.
Okay. So.
Do we have many more left?
Yeah, one last question.
Oh, we're on the last one then.
It comes from Natalie Bluebird.
Oh, boy.
She asks, what British foods do you want to try?
That was much more tame than I was expecting. It's funny because I think the British food I want to try most, I can definitely make here, and it's not even, I don't want to say it's not anything special, but like I'll say a full English breakfast, which is funny because there's almost nothing different that, you can get here than you can get over there, but I always see people eating full English breakfasts and they just look so amazing.
Mine has to do with a lot with like brand of things that you can only get in the UK. I will say one of the things I wanted to try for the longest time was Nando's, and now they have them in Chicago, so they were delicious. I ate there every chance I had. Which is funny because Nando's is actually South African, but it's very popular in the UK. I want a sausage roll. Like I don't even know, there's a brand too, and I can't even think of what the store is anymore, but I want that, and I really want a Jaffa cake.
Jaffa cakes, yeah.
Right? Like any of like the little like, for us like cookies or, treats, but like they call biscuits. Like there's so many of those. I'm like, yes, I want that. Cause I love Jammy Dodgers. Big fan of those, but like I really want a Jaffa cake.
Yeah, I first heard of Jaffa
or like
cakes.
A custard cream, like any of the little like biscuit things that they're like part of like tea. Like give it to me. I want it.
Yeah, I first heard of Jaffa cakes through that show Spaced, because that was like a kind of a small running gag throughout the whole series, was them always eating Jaffa cakes.
So they just sound so tasty, like an orange sponge. Like it sounds delicious.
Yeah.
Also, like pretty much anything that they would make on the Great British Bake Off that they don't make in America. Like all of those cakes, all of those things that just like, I don't know, it makes it seem like it's totally normal for people to just eat like opera cakes over in the UK. Because I really adore Mary Berry. So like anything she'd be like, oh, this is delicious, I'm on board, I want to eat it.
It's not that I don't enjoy cooking or baking shows, just it really makes me want it, and I know if I attempt it myself, I don't care if it looks terrible, but guaranteed it's probably not going to taste anywhere near what their goal is to taste like. So
true, but I think that's the beauty of GBBO, is that you don't feel like you could make it. The show does a very good job of showing you how frustrating and exhausting it is to make these things. Mm-hmm. So I feel no motivation to make things after watching that show. I think that's why I love it so much. Like I'm like, oh yes, this is best left to the experts. When I encounter this in the professional realm, I will eat it. So, that's my selling point of GBBO. And also you get really attached to the people, and they're so nice and supportive of each other. Like that show is great. I don't really like reality television. So if somebody wants to know my favorite reality show, Great British Bake Off.
I recently started watching on YouTube. Every now and then I would watch, like if it just pop up under suggested videos or whatever, I would watch it. But now I'm actually subscribed to the channel and watch it for meal ideas, and that's Binging with Babish. That dude is really good at making stuff. And, he even tells you, like, you can make it very complicated like I do, or you can just take this out and make it even much more simple, and yet it's still going to be damn good. And he also really makes me want a really good set of, like, pans and pots, because his are amazing at how good they are with cooking. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I'm a good cook. I can't say I'm a good baker. Like today I made an angel food cake out of the box, and it like 2 inches above the pan when it was done baking. And it tastes delicious, but why did that happen?
Yeah. I don't know if I'm good at either.
I'm an okay baker. There are things I make really well, and I stick to those things.
There's a reason I have Victoria with me. She cooks
She
so
does all
much
the
better.
cooking.
She does all the cooking. I do breakfast, but for the most part, I feel like who can't do breakfast?
You do.
I don't think that's true. I think breakfast is also a talent.
I've recently, well, at least in my opinion, perfected making scrambled eggs, but also scrambled eggs the way we like them. I'm sure other people will say that they're overcooked because they're not like, they're not brown, but they're also not wet. I know some people like wet scrambled eggs, and I can't do it.
You no.
Yeah.
No wet scrambled eggs.
We
tried feeding Veronica eggs for the first time last night. She is not into it.
Oh no.
Like, so they say feed babies scrambled eggs. Like, she was like, what are you doing to me right now?
I've perfected getting it after it's just done being wet, but right before it's just about to
Gets
be
like
overcooked.
crispy.
Yeah. I've perfected that middle ground. So I will pat myself
Yeah,
on the
see,
back for that.
I'd enjoy your scrambled eggs. My husband would not.
He likes his runny.
Not runny necessarily, but just like inconsistently cooked.
Oh.
Some's brown,
okay.
some's runny, some's this. Like, that's how he likes his eggs.
Just haphazard.
But the thing is, he doesn't ever just eat the scrambled egg. He makes an egg sandwich. So his need to be a little wet to be like sticky to the toast.
Oh, okay.
So I'll give him that.
Like how Gordon Ramsay's scrambled eggs are. It almost just looks like cream that he's pouring out of the pot.
Ew.
Yeah, if you're ever curious, look up how Gordon Ramsay, quote, makes the perfect scrambled eggs. Yeah,
I don't think I can, because I'm still, like, I think probably like 6 months ago I saw how Gordon Ramsay makes a burger in a pot, and I'm still reeling from that because he used an entire stick of butter for one patty.
Oh my lord. Jesus.
Like, and to, like, and then he would, cook it and then pour it over it and all this stuff. I'm like, listen, this is why you don't make a burger not on a grill.
Yeah, he constantly moves his eggs so that way the curds stay really small, which is fine. But yeah, they're, like I said, I won't say they're runny, but they're very, very creamy. I'll just say that. And I don't think I want creamy scrambled eggs.
No.
Like, he
that
doesn't
sounds
give them
creepy.
a chance to get fluffy.
Yeah, no, they're not fluffy whatsoever.
I don't even know how I feel about that right now. Like, I'm going to be thinking about this all night.
Like I said, go watch a video where he makes them and you'll see. Who knows? Maybe they will taste amazing because it's Gordon Ramsay, but just looking at them, I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm out.
I think I'll probably feel the same. All right, so we're out of questions?
We are out of questions. So I don't think you and I have an episode lined up yet. But I'm sure we will think of one soon. Because the past couple have been getting very good feedback, which is awesome. I've been trying to do some standalone episodes in between ours. Just life and work has gotten in the way, so I haven't been able to. But I'm working on it. Slowly but surely.
Yeah, well, I'm going to keep bugging you to do your standalone episodes, and we'll loop back when we've got an idea we're excited about for your regular contributor to pop in again.
Yes. And then I'm happy with myself because I finally came up with an episode idea, which was this one, and it's looking like it's going to be our longest one yet, so that's cool.
Well, I hope everybody was entertained by our strange opinions.
I hope so too. That they even care about them just makes me happy, so that's fine with me.
All right.
Yeah, so I thank you for doing this with me and everyone for their questions and Victoria's very tiny voice for reading them.
Thanks.
I'm also going to say one last message. Please don't be mad at me about Misery. I promise I will get back around to reading it. I have not dismissed it. I don't think it's terrible. Don't hate me.
Yes, you do need to read it because I'm assuming you've seen the movie.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's all I can really say is that it does get really good just like the movie is, so.
I believe you, and I know I'll get there. Again, curse of a mood reader. When the mood breaks, you can't keep going.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. No kidding. Ugh, story of my life. Well, I guess until next time, thank you again.
Absolutely.
And see you guys later.